give them
I don't know. I don't think we gave a firm deadline yet.
Give them a month. Yeah.
But
Green light.
green light.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How's it going generally? How's your day been?
Moderating at the moment.
Yeah.
It's pretty painful because we've got 16 classes for first year methods now.
Yeah.
Which means I have to coordinate with 10 tutors and moderate and do all that sort of stuff. So it's becoming less about teaching and more just this logistical machine at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fine getting there.
Sweet. Oh, we'll run the formal intro. Okay. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 4 of the CASAcast. We are here with Chris Mewburn, a beloved creative, having found success in teaching architecture at university, creating online video tutorials, and someone who constantly pushes the boundaries in competitions and AI challenges. I'm joined by
Shawn.
and
Jenny.
And Chris, do you want to introduce yourself to our lovely viewers, listeners?
Yeah, I mean, what a level of introduction are you looking for? What do we need to talk about? What do we need to go through?
What's like some main kind of broad
Broad strokes?
Describe yourself in like your broad strokes, exactly.
Okay, so Chris Mewburn, lecturer, Department of Architecture, just wrapped my 10th year teaching at Curtin. Onto my 11th year. Yay! Onto my 11th year now. It all kind of just blurs together because I went straight from teaching during my master's into immediately getting pulled into more teaching my first year as a graduate while I was doing bits and pieces. The bits and pieces quickly shifted and changed while I was still trying to figure out who I was as a designer.
Yeah.
And then that kind of pushed me into different paths, not only practicing, I guess if you can call what I do practice, but also in terms of my teaching as well, which is, I guess, shifted gradually to where we are now, pushing into digital technologies.
Sweet. Where did you, when you first went in the industry, let's say after you graduated masters, where did you kind of start off?
Yeah.
And how did that impact you maybe as a designer and a creative?
So to give it some context, when we were graduating, we're kind of in this post-GFC world where there were 2 jobs for 50 students. So we kind of had to come up with our own strategies to find some sort of work, but more importantly, fulfillment as well. Because
Right.
you could go and find anything you want, obviously. And everyone finds out pretty quickly that you can get paid the same amount to do an entry-level job as you can get paid to be an architecture graduate. So I didn't really want to do that. What I wanted to do is go and do something fun. So immediately we thought about what we'd done during our masters that we liked, and so that was social enterprise. During my masters through the John Curtin Leadership Academy, I was doing a project for youth homelessness and youth suicide prevention, and that I found gave me the most fulfillment in my life outside of what was going on in architecture.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do something that was a social enterprise, and off the back of that we were very interested, still interested in Japan and Japanese culture. Ergo, cat cafes, we really liked cat cafes. And then after thinking for years as students that this could never come to Australia because health departments just wouldn't let it happen, all of a sudden one popped up in our graduating year in Melbourne. So we decided to go over and suss it out, check out what it was all about. Decided that we could definitely do the same thing in Perth. And then next thing you know, we're testing the waters on Facebook to see if people would be interested in Perth. Within 72 hours, we got 10,000 people saying, wow, we want a cat cafe. We launched off the back of that crowdfunding campaign, got onto Channel 9 News and the newspapers, everything, raised a bunch of money, and we opened the cat cafe within a year. So that was our first thing we wanted to do outside of architecture school, was something social to give back to the community, and we donated a lot of money to animal welfare over the years. But also we wanted to build something straight away. We didn't really want to wait for this job that didn't exist to start building architecture. And so we said, well, okay, if we do this, we'll not only get to work with the heritage listed building, but we'll also get to do the fit out. And so we designed and constructed the fit out mostly ourselves,
Right.
which was really fun, which meant rather than waiting years to get our own built work built, we just built it straight away.
Sweet, yeah. So you're someone who, embraces, in the education side, who embraces a lot of, I guess, contemporary methods of learning. And you mentioned people learning through like YouTube and things like that.
100%.
So where do you see the future of education, and maybe specifically in architecture?
I think what's going to shift very quickly is the on wave of artificial intelligence and the different apps that are coming out of that. Already in the classroom, as you know, we're pushing Midjourney, DALL-E 3, and all of these things that are happening right now, even GPT to help with storytelling, narrative, reading books, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What I foresee is that this won't just be part of the iteration cycle, which is at the moment. It can't really make architecture for us, can't really do anything other than create some interesting thought starters.
Yeah.
I see in the next 5 years that will actually start to shift into our toolkits being more than an image generator. It might form part of the modeling, it might form part of the massing, it might form part of the detailing, it might form part of these different areas. And I have this conversation a lot, and people say, isn't this just going to kill everything that we already do? But if we rewind 20, 30 years when CAD was coming in and they were saying it's going to kill off hand drawing, it hasn't actually killed off hand drawing, because we still hand draw all the time, particularly sketching, particularly trying to find design solutions.
Yeah.
All it did was just make one particular part of the drawing process a little bit more efficient and faster. So artificial intelligence is going to come in, it's going to make our tools more efficient. And my hope, and where I'm really going to push, at least my education, is making sure that we can use the embedded efficiency that comes from that to give students more time to spend on design, speculation, and having fun with what we actually deem to be architecture, rather than all the other shit that comes with it.
Right, yeah. That's a good, it's probably the most like optimistic outlook that I've heard on it. So the ideation of, people is still the kind of main focus.
100%.
And the
So
hard work is
if you think about it, what we do is agency problem. So we have some sort of agency as designers, practitioners, right?
Yeah.
For another group in the community, whether that be an individual, a family, a community group that would otherwise not be able to represent themselves, or it's a business, an organization, whatever. We have agency for them as designers. They have a problem, therefore an agency problem. An agency problem, in my mind, is only really solved by a creative design solution.
Yeah.
So if you think about it that way, we need an architect to help them tease out what the problem actually is in the first place, the agency problem. And we need to be able to figure out creative solutions to that in order to then go on and do the massing, do the modeling, design the architecture, and get to the process. So no matter where we end up with artificial intelligence tools taking over our pipeline, I think the start of the pipeline is always going to remain fundamentally human, because the problems themselves, the agency problems, are fundamentally human.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, awesome. That's
What an insight.
definitely. Yeah. So to open the conversation more broadly about, artificial intelligence, where do you see it going elsewhere besides architecture? Do you think it's kind of what ethics problems do you perhaps see in that,
Yeah.
if any?
Well, obviously the deepfakes is what we're all facing at the moment, being the biggest ethical conundrum.
Yeah.
But that's only the tipping point. Where it's going to be more of an issue for us as architects, designers, is people will be able to take what they like from our existing work, use Gen AI to figure out how that process happens,
Right.
and they'll be able to create factotums of that themselves. So ultimately, I think it's going to do one of two things. Either we'll get really pissed off and go down the pathway of litigation and just keep suing everybody for copying our shit all the time, or probably a better output and a more design-focused output is to just keep innovating, to keep coming up with different solutions so that you are always ahead of the machine. Because at the end of the day, machines are fundamentally derivative in the sense that they have to take a pool of information, gather what they've got from that, and then turn that into something. Whereas I would argue people, particularly creators, are definitive. They can create new solutions, new outcomes, new pathways, and that's where innovation comes from. The other big thing that we have up our sleeve is empirical-based innovation, or empirical technology. And what do we mean by that? So empirical evidence-based development is, if you think back to caveman age, we go make a fire, try and rub some sticks together, that doesn't work. Okay, well, what happens if I rub this together? That doesn't work. Okay, what happens if I spark this thing together? Suddenly that works.
Yeah.
And so we have this trial and error process. artificial intelligence, at least to my limited knowledge, what it's trying to do is take all of the information that's available to it and find the most efficient and best solution. And then once it has that, it'll say every time, this is the best solution, this is the best solution, this is the best solution. Where that becomes an issue with creativity is we end up seeing the same shit every time, because the most efficient solution also looks like this too, which means all of the cities end up looking the same, which means all of the buildings end up looking the same, and which means all of our spaces end up being the same.
Right.
Whereas we as people are not afraid to fail, not afraid to fail forwards, and so we will take pathways that artificial intelligence will determine much faster than we can to be wrong. But we'll keep taking wrong pathways until eventually we find a new pathway, and therefore we've created something that AI just wouldn't have got to because it didn't bother failing. That is definitive. That is what humans can do.
There's a saying in comic art that's like, style is all the stuff you get wrong.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
100%.
Yeah, I think it kind of plays into, what you were saying about kind of how we have to just evolve and kind of, get good in a sense, right? Just keep staying ahead of other people, learning. Because, if you learn the process, it doesn't mean you'll be able to replicate it perfectly, but, obviously.
It's always shitter.
It is always shitter, but even still, right, having that knowledge, makes you kind of, push yourself. I thought that was really interesting, and it kind of couples with what you were saying about how, taking over, I guess, more menial tasks, for example, and giving people more time to design.
Wouldn't it be so much
stuff.
better if we can just spend all of our days designing
Yeah,
stuff and letting the
But-
minutiae go away?
Exactly.
Honestly, bring on
And evolve.
Copilot, getting rid of all my emails for me. Or
Yeah.
bring it on.
Do you want to tell us about some of the, if you guys, follow Metaverse_architect on Instagram, you'll see.
It's changed.
It's
now
changed,
just Chris
yeah,
Mewburn.
yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Is it Chris dot?
Underscore.
Okay.
Underscore.
If you follow Chris _
You just
Mewburn.
type in Chris Mewburn into Instagram.
Yeah.
Find it.
Well, you'll see
Yeah.
some of the really cool, AI competition work that Chris has been doing. Do you want to tell us kind of, a bit more in depth about what those competitions are like and the different ones you might participate in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it stems back really to the teaching. So because I'm 100% teaching workload, it means that all of my time throughout the week is dedicated to helping other people be creative, which I love, I adore. But at some point that drives you a little bit crazy if you're a creative person yourself, because you don't have an outlet to do your own creative things. And all you're doing is seeing everyone else having fun and you want to have fun yourself.
Yeah.
So the competitions came out of that. So my colleague, your co-tutor, Isaac McCormack, works at GHD. GHD are an amazing international engineering and architecture firm.
Yep.
But a lot of the work that he's doing is focused really on the pragmatics of architecture and creative solutions at a very large scale of architecture. Pragmatic. So both of us came together with this one common thread that we needed some sort of creative outlet for ourselves. We needed to get back into it and just start being speculative and playing in that fantasy realm. So over the last, I think, a year now, we've been just doing competitions together. We do competitions on build now, we do competitions on non-architecture, and most of the time, because of that context of where we come from, we only choose the really conceptual stuff. So there's, of course, pragmatic architecture competitions you can do, like design a new facade system or come up with a solution to X, but we prefer to take on something with a little bit of poetry, something with a little bit of left of field. We're both particularly interested in narrative and storytelling and that kind of thing. So you'll see a lot in the work that we do. It's not necessarily architecture that will be built tomorrow, but it's something that pokes and asks questions and is intentionally provocative.
Yeah. Do you, for example, any of your designs, do you see that actually having some sort of potential future outcome or?
Yeah, I mean, I see competition work kind of like the automotive industry might make a concept car, or fashion might do like a high fashion. It's not going to go on the shelf, but it might have an influence down the line in terms of the technologies used or in terms of the way of thinking about a particular problem. And that's really important to me, that we're not just being, again, derivative and cyclical of stuff that we already know. So doing competitions for me allows me to test other ideas, other avenues, other things that might not come up, particularly in my relatively, crazy to say, but junior level as an architectural designer,
Right.
most of the stuff that I built is interior spaces, is spaces for family and friends, and so it's only going to be at that very rudimentary base level scale of understanding of architecture, whereas competition design allows me to flex a much broader creative muscle.
Right, right. To kind of flip it a little bit in terms of, you know, what realm of architecture we're looking at. For us, you know, I think a lot of our classes are sort of pushing, you know, kind of future prepping. So,
Sure.
you know, net zero and, you know, designing potentially for, you know, climate disasters.
Very
that
important.
sort of thing.
Yep.
Where do you see your kind of interest in your work falling into that, if, you know, if at all?
Yeah, I think definitely in the future side of things, that's where I push everything that I do. It's what is the future of X, what is the future of this, what is the future of that. So I'm always pushing that. In terms of sustainability, there are people far smarter than me and far more educated in these realms that I'm happy to let push that field in that realm.
Yeah.
For example, my PhD that I'm about to start is not about sustainability. Shock horror. Most people's PhDs are, but I'm interested in conceptual stuff, and I think everybody can have a role and play a part in the future of our world and making sure things are better and making sure that we're implementing strategies to improve and be more sustainable. But that doesn't mean that every single person needs to go out and measure the carbon in the atmosphere for that one specific approach. So there are multiple ways to achieve the same outcome, and I think that's important that creative people continue to be creative. Don't just force yourself because you're worried about the state of things to go down a particular path, because you never know that the path you're already on might end up circling back and being very important in the future. I kind of look at it as a free and open thing that, provided I'm doing something that I'm interested in, I just trust in the fact that eventually it will be relevant.
I think the first years are gonna like this. This is just gold.
Yeah, I want to write that down.
Yeah, exactly. I guess to continue off of that, you know, what advice can you give us as students to sort of bring into the future of the built environment?
It's a difficult question because it really depends where you want to go. So some of you are going to end up working in large practices in big international firms, for sure. This guy probably 100%. It depends. If you want to be working in small practice, you can still have a very immediate impact on the surrounding environment in terms of sustainability, in terms of social sustainability, in terms of all sorts of elements. So I would say that if that's the answer, a better answer on top of that is mindset. If you have the right mindset that you're passionate about what you're doing and you really fundamentally believe that what you're doing is going to push in a good direction, then it will. You just need to make sure that you're giving 100% to whatever you choose to do. And once you commit to it, just keep committing to it.
Right. Yeah, awesome. I'm gonna print that out and frame it. I reckon.
Yeah.
Just on here in the CASA room.
Put it as a quote, small poster. Yeah.
Well, we have a couple of pin up,
Yeah, we have stuff.
pinned little. But we should make like an official
proper.
plaque. Sort of,
we should.
To kind of, I guess, to go off of that, where do you find that students kind of mostly maybe misjudge or sort of lose sight of certain things during their studies on a broader scale?
I think students tend to really suck, and I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's it, they suck.
At compartmentalizing. And so they'll, except for the really good ones, of course, there's always exceptions to the rule, but a lot of students in the middle will do whatever is due next, I'm going to focus all of my attention on, and then when I finish that, I'll move on to the next thing that's due, and then when I finish that, I'll move on to the next thing that's due. Right. And what that does is it kills the opportunity for sleeping on it, for mulling it over, for thinking about it, for dreaming about it, for, I don't know, recognizing it in the shower, which I absolutely love to do. What you can't do if you're so much pressured into getting it done because there's a week to go. Whereas if you're constantly chipping away at it, it allows your brain and your subconscious to think about it. It allows you to see and experience other things outside of the classroom, outside of your house, outside of everywhere, to gain new perspectives and then bring that back into whatever problem you're dealing with at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest missed opportunity for students, is that they're not allowing all of their units, or at least all of the ones they're interested in, sufficient time to fully digest. So particularly designer methods. I know, obviously I'm biased, but if you are only giving yourself 2 weeks to do the assignment, all you're ever really going to meet is the deliverables themselves.
Right.
Whereas actually teaching yourself something, actually learning something new about who you are as a designer and the way you think and what you want to achieve in your future, that takes time. And making a design that you're really happy with, as everyone at this table knows, really takes a lot of time to fully absorb it. And I would argue that even if you had the same amount of hours in a 2-week period than you had in a 10-week period, let's say you've got 200 hours to do your assignment, and you could either split that over 2 weeks or split that over 10 weeks, the 10-week one is always going to be better because you had more time to decompress and think about it and bring other perspectives to it. And so that's what I always recommend to everybody. Compartmentalize. What I did as a student is I gave myself 1 day a week per unit, and then whatever else was left over usually ended up for design, but fine. At least there was always that other day of the week where I could be working on that subject and gave me enough time to ruminate.
Definitely, yeah. I find that letting myself, fall back on stuff I like and stuff I, just tend to do outside of architecture, always helps to bring a new perspective, and that kind of goes with what you're saying about
100%.
splitting it up and just going.
You're spot on. That's another thing that a lot of students, except for the really good ones, will fail to do, is that they don't bring their own influence into their work. And so I'll find out in 3rd year, when it's far too late, that this student is an amazing painter, but they never brought any painting into the work they do inside the studio, which is crazy. So you should always be trying to bring your own personal touch to it. And everybody, and I think it's a high school thing, so mature age students are better at this, but when you come straight out of high school, your job was conformity. And so you take that approach in 1st year. It's like, okay, I'm not going to stretch too much outside of what everybody else is doing or what the brief is asking me to, because I need to fit in this box, because that's how I'll get the best mark. Whereas hopefully later, or at least the mature age students bring that as well, they go, who gives a shit about the grade? What I want to do is learn something. I want to apply something. I want to bring myself to this and show my unique qualities. And so they'll break the brief and they'll bring other things in and they'll try different deliverables. And it almost always ends up with a better result, not only the mark itself, but for the student in terms of their learning.
Yeah. I find that, and this could just be a completely, stray assessment, but I find that older students have a bit more, confidence in their designs, or at least in their sort of approach to uni in general.
I don't think it's confidence. I think it's the opposite. I think it's giving less shits.
Right. Okay. Wow.
Actually, I could agree with that, because they're like, I just want to do for fun, because I assume most of people are, some people have already graduated and they're like, maybe I want to pick up something new that I want to do in my life. And they come in, do architecture, something that I never get a chance to do it, but now I have the time to, maybe I pick it up,
You're spot on. And they're just busier. Like, they got kids, they got mortgages to pay, they got to do stuff, and so they don't have time to let insecurities win, which I guess is the wider lesson. Even if you're not mature age, you just got to realize that you're human, you're gonna have insecurities, but acknowledge them and then try your best to table them and put them aside so that you can be creative.
Right. Yeah, awesome. That kind of concludes the the written questions.
The important stuff.
That
was a bit like an interview.
The mandated stuff.
So now we talk about personal stuff?
Yeah, let's open it up.
You poke me with personal questions?
For sure.
Okay, cool. We need those beers now. I mean water.
Yeah, water. We do, but it's pretty warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been in there for quite a fair bit.
No.
Yeah.
Joke.
It's also expired.
Yeah.
Can't drink it.
Wink, wink.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, we're definitely not having that. AMA, anything you want. Personal questions.
What movie inspired you to do? I know it's based on your thesis, but the film and games unit.
10 points for you.
Was
Most people don't pick up that it's based on my thesis.
It wasn't
Well
me.
done.
To be fair, I'll give credit.
Yeah.
I'll give credit to
out?
Shawn.
I read the PDF.
Yeah, most people don't crack that code. There'll be like one student a year is like, Chris, by the way, is this unit based on your thesis?
Well, it is based like a net luxury, her thesis, right? Tanya, place identity, a unit, it all comes together.
Yeah. I have to call you Tom Hanks. You just cracked the Da Vinci.
Yeah, her PhD.
Yeah. We all do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm about to start my PhD in artificial intelligence. You bet your sweet ass I'm going to be pushing that harder and harder into the class. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, just favorite color?
Favorite color?
Yeah.
Prussian blue.
Prussian blue.
Prussian blue.
It's that that's kind of the
That's fancy. Yeah.
like that on the more on like the purpley side of blue, like the Bob Ross blue.
Nah.
No.
No.
Grey?
Or is it more like a sky blue?
Prussian blue, and get ready for some pretentiousness.
Sure.
Is it's got black in it and blue in it, little subtle bits of lighter and darker blues, and then some navies, etc. in it. It's a really, really deep, rich color, which takes a lot of different pigments, don't ask me the names, to put together. And so when you paint it, particularly if you have a really high quality paint, you'll see that it has blacks in it, it has blues in it, it has light blues in it, it has everything.
Prussian blue.
And I guess the reason why I love it the most is because it has that sense of depth and purity, and you can stare at it for ages and see something new, which is what I like about most art, by the way, is that it's not a one-liner. It takes a long time to absorb and sink your teeth into.
Yeah. Do you have any artists from any particular like mediums that you look up to, or?
Yeah. So Caspar David Friedrich's Wonder Above a Sea of Fog is my all-time favorite painting.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of summarized in my thesis. I talk about that quite a lot. But then you can go to Turner in the Sublime. I love that kind of stuff. There's some Aussies as well. Frederick McCubbin. There's David Hockney playing obviously post-digital. You guys did that in first year as well. I'd say that if you were to look through my units, first year, second year, and third year, and some of the design ones I've had in the past, you can kind of very easily unpick all of my favorite things because they're layered very much into there. But yeah, artists, my favorite artist at the moment, if you go to WA Museum Boulevard, is Shannon, I think it's McKinley, something like that.
We should have yesterday.
Yeah.
We were right there.
Right, we were right there. Yeah.
I don't think that's his last name, but he's an Aboriginal artist that's passed away now, but he has these most amazing impressionist paintings, and just like I was talking about with the Prussian blue, there is just so much depth to the work. You can sit in front of it for hours. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Favorite, I don't know, film director?
Christopher Nolan. Next question.
Easy.
I thought you've said that before.
Yeah.
What specifically about his films do you like?
Have you watched Chris Nolan film?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Okay. That has to be the first question, because that's kind of a self-answering question. What you like about Chris Nolan films is like it's his thing, it's his shtick.
Yeah, like the kind of the spectacle and the.
Well, no, I mean, if we're going to get deeper into it, time. It's all about time.
Oh yeah,
Some of these old things about time.
Since like Memento and.
Yeah,
Was there a film before that? Like a
Memento is his
film
main film, but yeah, he did some other stuff before that. So that's his commonly called first film was Memento. But if you look through the catalogue, the common thread of all of the films is time. And if you look through my catalogue of work, you'll see the common thread of all of my work is time. So yeah, there's a correlation there, and I'm not comparing myself to Christopher Nolan at all, because he's amazing. But
Always.
yeah, we have a common interest. Yeah.
Yeah. But favorite Nolan film?
Oh man. Depends on my mood. Like I love Interstellar, didn't particularly rate Dunkirk. I think probably Oppenheimer was pretty epic, but I sat too close to the screen, so it broke me a little bit. I need to wait and go back and see that one.
Willem Dafoe meme, looking up.
Oh, yeah.
Man, no, we were like right next to the subwoofer. I swear my chest cavity was caving in
Oh, no.
at one point. Memento, of course, Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I think Dark Knight was actually the one that told me about Chris Nolan. Like, I wouldn't have known about Chris Nolan until Dark Knight, so I guess I have to say Dark Knight. Yeah.
Fair. Okay. Correct answer, but anyway.
Correct
I'm not bringing my own biases or anything. It's
Batman.
Batman.
Yeah. Well, what did you think of Tenet? That one's kind of.
Oh, sorry.
side.
How did I know? So Tenet is my birthday film. Every year I'm allowed to choose the film I want, and my wife hates the fact. Oh, she deals with it, but I every year I say Tenet is the film that I want to watch.
Really?
Yeah, I rated Tenet. And I know that's a huge thing to say because a lot of people did not rate Tenet. But in terms of cinematography, in terms of the soundscape, and then that relationship with time, the backwards, forwards, and the fact that after every time I watch that film, I go onto YouTube and I watch all of the what do you thinks and the spoilers and I watch that shit for hours. Yeah, I love it because that's kind of how my brain works. I'm always trying to piece potential loops together. So yeah, it really resonated with me.
That movie is just like all of Christopher Nolan's, tendencies and all of his flair just like put together and like cannonballed at you.
Yeah.
The soundscape, the color grading, the cinematography, and obviously like the super, central focus on time.
I think it was his first one where the big budget studios realize, okay, whatever this guy does, he's gonna bring dollars in, so let's just give him a huge budget and let him do whatever he wants. And then he created his own story from that, whereas Oppenheimer, I guess he kind of had to tell an existing story, so it wasn't as Nolan-y as the Nolan can be.
Interesting. Do you have a favorite movie score or soundtrack?
Well, Zimmer's my guy.
Yeah.
Love Zimmer.
Yeah.
I guess if I'm talking about like current day stuff, I really rated Dune in terms of just creating sounds that aren't sounds and turning that into something that was quite a spectacle. But if I go back, I have to go to my childhood and think like Star Wars, Harry Potter, and all of those ones that just as soon as I hear any of that music, it takes me to a place. Because I'm the same age as Harry, and the books were coming out as I was his age.
Right. Oh, cool.
So we have that very... I said we, he doesn't know.
Parasocial relationship.
100%.
That's your guy.
100%, yeah. Is there something above power, like extra parasocial? Yeah. What about CASA? I think maybe we talk about that for a bit. I noticed that on Instagram today, we're finally launching to get the next series of people to take over CASA and continue from the good work that you're doing. Questions about CASA? Questions about the old days?
Yes.
Yeah,
Jim mentioned that yesterday.
Like,
yeah.
Story me out. I'll tell you whether it's right.
From Ricardo, the club used to be much bigger.
Yep.
Everyone's more active.
Yep.
Rooms are much more accessible.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
Correct.
Yeah.
I really...
So far, so good?
Yeah. Yeah.
I really want to hear, because like we heard from Jen, and she was like, they have like this sausage sizzle thing, this like big thing everyone knows about CASA, and then I was like, what? Really?
It's so weird.
Yeah, because now it's like barely anyone like really.
Like we tried
Yeah.
the space outside. We tried to take it over and give that space to the second years.
Yeah,
We
how'd that
told
go?
them no one turned up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once
I think they do sometimes.
They do.
It's better than it used to be, I think.
Yeah, it's like what?
You got this
Once-
space and the room out there as well.
Yeah, and we
At least you have that.
used to jump into the conference rooms or meeting rooms
console,
now,
yeah.
but that was good while it lasted.
Yeah.
Because there's windows and stuff.
Yeah.
The window room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the best part about what you guys do is that you're always here, and so anyone can come and find CASA if they need to, because it becomes a physical thing. Whereas if it's digital only, like during the COVID years, that's why it turned to shit, because it wasn't a physical thing anymore. And what are you really going to do if you're posting on the socials? How are you going to attract the new first years and second years coming in? So as soon as your current friends group graduates, say goodbye, basically what happened during COVID. So and that was cyclical. Like the reason that I became vice president and then president of CASA is because it died, but I had seen it 6 years earlier on the tail end of what was good.
Right.
And so it happens every single time. Someone who happens to be there at the right time, but they're in first year, so it's too soon for them, will see a good version of CASA. Then when they come through, eventually it'll go, okay, we need to return back to the glory days. They amp it up. Then everybody thinks, okay, it's good now, so let's just leave it. It falls down, and then the next person comes and takes it. So I wasn't the first person to make it good, and I certainly wasn't the first person to make it anything particularly special. CASA was always a thing, and it's been a thing for decades. What we had going for us was a really tight-knit group of very keen, very competitive students, much like you guys have got. And so it's all the HD kids that just want to be around each other and want to be pushing each other. And so we wanted a space that we could do that because there were no studio spaces. We had a head of the architecture school, nowadays called course coordinator. Back then it was just head of department of architecture. He had this philosophy of move in the night, pretend you were there the whole time, and then don't answer any question. And so what we did was one day we just took a classroom up on level 4. I took the fridge from my parents' house, I took a couch, I took cupboards, I took anything we could find. We took tables that were downstairs in classrooms and turned them into our own tables. We put posters on the wall. We put work as though we'd been already in there for 6 months, pinned it up on the wall.
That sounds familiar, actually.
And then, no one said shit. Like, it was another 3 months later before someone came through in the school spaces and was like, what? Hang on. You guys have not been here. I've been here for 10 years and I never noticed this before. And so then they started asking questions. But then the head of school, again, was like, what are you talking about? These guys are amazing. They do so much for their community. That's their room. As far as I'm concerned, they get to keep it. And because it was old building 201 that no one cared about, fine, just let them stay where they are. And then once we had that space, it was about being there all the time, which you guys do incredibly effectively, by the way. And then
no life.
Yes, you do. Yeah, you do it very well. But beyond that, it was organising all of the fun events. And so the biggest event of the year, every single year for us, even when CASA was down, was the T-Square Ball. I don't even know if you guys have heard about the T-Square Ball before. Okay.
No, when it was, I think the last ball was probably 2 maybe years ago.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah. What's that?
Oh, that was like when Shawn was
2019.
So it was,
Yeah.
It could be 4 times.
Yeah.
So T-Square Ball was, let's say, 30 years ago, an actual ball where people would dress up, get limos, go to convention center or somewhere like that and have a proper ball. You would invite people from industry and it was a massive party. It's basically the only time of the year where Curtin and UWA would be civil, not nice, but civil to one another and sit in the same room and do some mingling.
Really? Wow.
Eventually that kind of slowly shifted, and by the time we came along, the ball we'd been to in the past and we're like, it just doesn't really suit, and I don't think people are going to want to come to that. So what we did, what we did was we got rid of the ball and we called it T-Square, and we turned it into a party. We hired out a club in Northbridge. We paid for all of the booze, so students drank for free, and then of course, as soon as that is an option, everybody was there. We made it themed, so every year there was a different theme. I think, what was the first one? Oh, it was exercise, and you all had to come in your exercise gear or a character that's exercise-like, and we had people from Dodgeball dressing up as the Purple Cobras and walking around the room doing all that sort of stuff, and I was in the Lycra. It was really good. Really, you don't want to see that.
Okay.
But I think we'd edit it into the video.
The point is, it was funny as shit, and so because we all had that relief from what is a very serious degree, it's very serious, right? And so creating pockets of relief, as well as all of the other stuff, industry night, connecting, networking, doing all those important things, but the little bits of respite and fun, where all you have to do is turn up and have a couple of drinks, talk to your mates and have some fun. That was the best part. And then because that was so successful, CASA just kind of it's CASA.
Yeah.
CASA does what CASA does.
Right,
Including
right.
UWA was actually really important, and including interior architecture was really important as well, because it just gave us numbers, and once you have enough numbers, you get a critical mass of people saying, hey, you're going to X, I'm going to X, you should come along. And so the numbers game really worked for us, having both UWA and interior architecture part of it. So I would definitely recommend if you can. Well, now we've got Notre Dame is also part of the game, and then potentially ECU in the not too distant future. We might have a 4th architecture school in Western Australia before too long, so we'll see where that ends up.
Right. Interesting. I don't know how Gen Z would react to
a party.
Yeah, a party.
You guys don't party?
We don't have a life.
Neither did we, but we did that.
Maybe the people who party like just don't show up to uni as much. But the impression I get from a lot of people is not.
The thing is, if they go to parties, they won't be here. Yeah,
that's true.
But we didn't party, but we did that party.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. We also snuck in after hours to do things, which I can't say, but were a lot of fun. I'll tell you a story of one that came before us, which is what started us to do the things.
Right.
So I won't use any names, but now very famous West Australian architects who also happen to be CASA presidents and vice presidents. In the old building 201, there's the very long corridor, the open atrium down level 3, the blue carpet. They created a roller derby on skates, basically ice hockey, running down the center. And so everyone had to come in ice skates. This was at like 2 o'clock in the morning when nobody's there, all the lights are on, everyone's in skates. Find either some sticks or clubs or something from somewhere, 2 teams, and just going nuts at each other, playing hockey.
Yeah,
super fun. Another one that was really popular, Leonie Matthews, who's a practitioner now in Western Australia. When she was president, she told me about it, and I'm not going to say number of years back it was, but it was back. They used to do the long dinner. And so all of the plinths, the big white plinths, they would run that all the way down the blue carpet level, and every single person just had to bring one dish. Wow. And so in front of you was this giant dinner, and you just mingle every now and again. It was like, okay, time to change, go sit next to someone else, talk to someone else. And it became basically like a family dinner where people would go and do that, and they did it once a month.
That's that frequently?
Yeah, it was epic.
Wow, okay.
Well, so the story goes.
Yeah.
That sounds so cool.
Well, you can't do this here.
Yeah.
You can do dinner.
There are cameras everywhere. They catch us.
Having dinner? Who
No,
like
downstairs.
Don't go ice skating in the foyer.
These health students, they come in, take up the space.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little difficult.
Midnight?
Yes.
Yeah, they have.
They're still here at midnight.
Their friends are camped inside.
It's actually.
Yeah.
Proportionally, here at midnight, it's like, I don't know, 10% architecture. Yeah. And then the rest is like, I don't know,
whatever else.
Everything else.
Really?
Yeah.
Even in this swipe only spot that we've got?
Sometimes, they do bring in friends.
Mm.
Yeah, so we have one DBE person, and the rest of them are, God knows where they're from.
Yeah. It's happened. And before when we all got the room down there, they're all packed, and we usually just okay, I guess we're gonna wait until they leave.
It was mad. I think Ramesh and I kind of saw a couple doing there, watching a movie.
Yeah.
And I'm yo,
watching a movie.
Yo, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
It's a consultation room. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if they study, I would be mad.
Honestly, I mean, you'd be surprised how effective an A4 black and white sheet of paper that says reserved School of Design Built Environment
works wonders.
Chris Mewburn's class, whatever. Give you permission. Put it and just pin it on stuff. Stick it on that table outside when you want to have your dinner. No reason why you can't do a CASA long table and have dinner one night, and the day of you just print out some pieces of A4 paper saying reserved, and then when people sit there inevitably and you get back to it later, you say, sorry guys, this is a reserved. What are they going to do? They're going to move. So I think just take ownership. The other thing is furniture in most of these places is not conducive to chilling and having fun and enjoying self. Neither is the lighting. I reckon,
pretty bad. Yeah.
I reckon we just need to start bringing some old lamps in, go on Gumtree or what is it called now, Facebook Marketplace. And get some old lamps, start filling up these rooms, fill in that space so that at night time turn all these friggin' lights off, put some lamps on, and it'd be so much nicer to chill in there.
It's motion
Candles.
Oh, these lights are motion detect?
So I try to turn it off during the weekend, and then
when deadlines like
in here, at least,
and you sit there for like
bad.
5 hours and don't move, it shuts off.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, when that happens, you know you need to just get up and like
you
go
know, like,
to the toilet, go and drink water.
There's no override. You can't just turn off the lights in there.
I tried multiple times.
Why don't you? And this is something we did before in the cafe. Is we didn't like the lights, but we couldn't do anything about them. So we laser cut some screens and blue tack them over the lights. And so the light became all dappled and made lovely shapes in the floor and totally changed the ambience of the space.
Yeah.
It's a 2-second job.
Yeah. Technically, we can just stick some tape on the detector thing. And
so there's no movement.
Yeah.
Even smarter. Jenny for the win.
Always.
So IQ.
Oh, you have that for that.
Yeah.
TikTok lights. Just like lighting the corners.
Yeah. LED.
Yeah, there's like strips, like the multicolor TikTok light strips.
Cringe.
Yeah. Oh, how did you guys go about? So we heard a story yesterday about old CASA, and there was this whole like vending machine thing where they made like a stupid amount of money with a couple of vending machines.
Yep.
How did you guys make money, for example, when you were in CASA? For CASA, obviously.
So ticketing the smaller events, ticketing T-Square, before we decided. Well, the first one when we wanted everyone to come, we made it free and gave everyone free booze. But then after that, you could ticket stuff. I mean, people back then had coins in their pockets, so you could do a sausage sizzle where people just give you $1 or $2 or whatever it was, which made life a lot easier. The other thing we did is, like, you could do calls for donations and stuff, but people are a bit donor fatigued to do that sort of thing all the time. You really just got to provide stuff that they want to do. So I did AutoCAD tutorials when I was a student, and I charged for that. I think it was like $20 a head or something, which undervalued my time, but
I kind of did that for...
Yeah, we did a similar thing.
A Revit tutorial.
The attendance was pretty...
For IA.
Yeah.
The first session, seven people turned up.
Yeah.
did you charge $20?
We did charge them.
Like 15.
Yeah, and the session afterwards, no one turned up.
Yeah.
No, well, so it was meant to be like, I think it was like 22 expressed interest, 15 said they were going to come on the day, 6 or 7 showed up. Next week, sorry assignments. So
Classic funnel.
yeah, I guess for next year.
Well, I reckon if you want to play the numbers game, target first years, man. There's 400 first years doing my methods 1B unit, and almost all of them feel like they need help with AutoCAD, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, SketchUp, all of the stuff that you do.
Oh, business idea.
So, there's no reason why you can't offer that. And like, if you take out the it's not exactly altruistic thinking about this, take that out. Students actually need help as well, and so there's only so much feedback we can give them during class time. Some students miss a class because she gets in the way. If you actually offer that as an opportunity on top of what I already do on Fridays, I reckon you'd have some people take it up.
Nice.
Alrighty.
Yeah, numbers game.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah. Who are you hoping to be the new CASA people? Just in terms of like character traits, what are you looking for? What do you hope to see?
Oh, character traits.
To be fair, the reason why we're CASA was that we just hang out here so often. Then Harrison was like, "Yo, you want to do CASA?"
Yeah.
And we were like, no reason to say no.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a trait, like closeness and community. Yeah. And I think the second years are actually they're pretty good in terms. I don't know exactly what the social groups are and who, but they're there's some really like tight knit people there. So I think that'll help carry us through like next year and
there's some incredibly talented people coming through in second year. It's pretty amazing the stuff they're doing.
Yeah.
You see some of the drawings for Justin's class. Yeah, off the charts.
Yeah. Like, Jesus, I'm not gonna do that. Hand drawn, all that. Oof.
What are you talking about, Shawn? You were amazing when you were in first year and second year.
No, I did it on CAD computer.
Yeah, but you could have if you wanted to.
Most underrated sketcher in third year, Shawn. Yeah.
Also,
you weren't admitted, but your sketches are
it's actually pretty good. Like,
kind of rough.
Yeah, but like they're like there's like an aesthetic roughness, you know. They look like they were drawn
architect
by.
style.
That
Kind of sketch. I used sketch on my sketchbook once, and then I will show it to someone else, and they were like, "This is one of the good sketch, like actually good, like architectural sketch." And they were pointing at yours. I'm like, "Oh yes, that was my friend." And they're like,
Okay, all right.
"Yeah."
Classic Shawn.
I'll take it. Yeah.
Take the praise.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
Super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Taking praise.
Doesn't feel right.
Yeah. You'll get there.
Okay.
Maybe
But-
we can host an event at Pretty Good Pizza / Ruinbar. We've discovered. Have you been to Ruinbar?
Where is it?
Newcastle
I think it's
Street.
Beaufort in
It's
Newcastle.
near that food Northbridge area. What's it called?
It's close to 5 grams.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Yum. I haven't been. But
Yeah.
You mean 7 grams?
7
Oh
grams.
yeah, 7 grams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just get less chicken at 5 grams.
Yeah, it's the best pizza we ever had.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a huge call.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I think my favorite kind of Italian-ish pizza is Rocco's in Fremantle.
Okay.
My favorite Americanized pizza is Ruinbar / Pretty Good
right?
Pizza.
Yeah.
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 Interesting.
Yourself?
I'll have to give it a go. Okay. So around the corner from me, Papagallo's in Leederville. Pretty authentic. It's on Oxford Street, all the way down, closer to Mount Hawthorn than it is Leederville.
Yeah.
They do this spicy nduja garlic bread, which is like this calabrese sausage. Yummy. It's off the charts. That's probably our favourite at the moment.
Yeah.
But we love pizza and we love trying different places, so I'll definitely give Old Mate a go.
Yeah. Is that a franchise or just like the one?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, not super into franchisey stuff.
Yeah.
Domino's.
Domino's. You know what? Domino's in Japan hit so different.
That's
Yeah.
Japan.
Yeah.
Everything's different.
Actually good.
Apparently Pizza Hut in Korea is off the charts, so but they wouldn't let me buy it because I have a foreign Visa card. I tried to create like VPNs just to get some pizza in Korea, but they wouldn't give it to me. What a stitch up.
Dear.
So yeah, when I go back at the end of this year, one of my ambitions is to try Korean pizza.
All right. Yeah.
It's like the only thing I'm going to do when I get there.
Just make some excuse, make the tutors buy it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, since you bring up about Korea, what do you think of like architecture's like school there? Since you I saw you visit multiple like universities.
Yeah. They are incredibly good at fine craft and amazing, beautiful, detailed hand models. Like models that would just take us weeks and weeks and weeks to make.
Yeah.
They spend all of their time on that, and funnily enough, the reason they do that is because that's what the professors, is what they call, they're not lecturers, professors, were looking at, and they were looking at the models. Like the drawings were secondary to the model. Everyone would stand around talking about the model and looking at the model and holding up the model and basically walking through the model, and the drawings were only really just a part of the equation, whereas I would say we're the complete opposite. We focus on the visuals, like how special can this visual be, how good's your panel by the time you get to third year, how well is it all composed together. Even like if you're looking through process books, like how good are the visuals, how good is their understanding of what they're doing, whereas models, like it's an artifact that you chuck onto the side, if at all, to put as part of your project. In terms of the level, because when we sat down to assess all of the portfolios for the professors to determine who was going to Korea, their general feedback was they think that our work for our second years is probably more like their third or fourth years. In terms of the visuals. I would say, take the praise, but I would say that probably what they mean is, without putting words in their mouth, that because they're looking mostly at our visuals and they don't really prioritize visuals, maybe our visuals are a little further along in that path because we put so much emphasis. Whereas I reckon if I was taking models over with me, they'd be like,
But I honestly think about it now. Like if you can produce a decent model, it means that you're able to build your project up
100%.
From the ground. I think that maybe that's why it's kind of model is important.
it's a little bit lost now. I would agree. We've run out of time. Honestly, getting rid of the second tuition free week is such a pain in the ass for us.
It is.
And
To
then,
be honest, I've Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say,
yeah.
getting rid of 4 or 5 units, whatever it was, to make room for specializations. I mean, every single class had to have more stuff crammed into it as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, architecture is just, it's gotten harder.
Yeah.
I definitely see that all the time. Because you're almost doing architecture plus something else.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, you want to just do architecture, get rid of specialization.
Takes all my time away.
There's a petition happening right now, I think, for the second tuition free week to come back. So.
Every single time the new guild comes out, bring back tuition free.
Yeah, it's always happened, but never really,
I think that's the only consistent policy all the way from like the Greenies to the fascists.
Give us more free time.
Tuition,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's our peaceful thing that we can all agree on. But we need it. We miss it. Like even as lecturers, gosh, we need that extra tuition free week to catch up on emails, catch up on marking. Because as you see, I'm sure, by the time we get to end of semester, we're lagging behind answering your requests. We're lagging behind getting marking finished on time. It's just, it builds up. So as much as it's building up on you, we really want the tuition free week back too, but it's out of our control.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, from my perspective, like in terms of like maybe for architecture, we really do need like that extra week. But like
100%.
Yeah, but then for the other courses, they think that this might become like unnecessary since they don't have that much of workload that we have. So they're kind of like, what's the point of it? But
No, I think it's pretty ubiquitous. It's just that they're trying to keep enough space over summer in case they ever want to do a summer semester and turn it into trimesters. That's what I think it is. Yeah, it's just about trying to squeeze extra content in. But we have OUA anyway, and a lot of the clever students, particularly early years, when they figure it out, they'll do 3 units during semester, and then the 2 that they miss across semester 1 and 2, they just do over OUA. So technically they're full time because it's 75 credits, but they have one less thing to think about during semester. So yeah, for us, trimesters not really relevant because we already do that by OUA.
Yeah.
And I encourage everyone to do that, by the way. If you guys doesn't matter so much because you're already finishing 3rd year, but for other maybe 1st year and 2nd years, if you're finding the workload is really heavy, drop down to 75 credits, so 3 units because it's still full time, and then do the 2 units that you miss over Online Unis Australia, which is still curtains, same lecturers, same content, same people.
Like over summer or?
Yeah, because the OUA SP4 starts, I think it's 3 weeks after you guys finish, so you get a little break.
Pretty much in line with the seasons, right? It's like December.
To roughly.
Yeah.
If we're going Anglo seasons.
Sorry,
not Aboriginal 6 seasons. Yeah. Yes, it is. But 3 weeks break before you start SP4, and then I think it finishes a week before orientation semester 1 in the following year. So it's not like it overlaps and kills any of your time.
I mean, it's only 1 unit, so
2, because if you miss 1 unit per semester, then you do 2. Yeah. But what I recommend is like do the ones that you have to be face to face on campus, and do the other ones which is maybe more reading focused that you can do elsewhere. Do that online, so that you can have conversations. And by the way, people online have deeper conversations about readings and theory anyway, so you probably will get even more out of doing it online for the theory units.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh right, I wanted to say that we should have like duo studios.
Duo studio.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in a studio, you would pair up someone else and tackle a project.
Oh.
Group work, sort of like, but it's just 2 persons. Yeah.
As opposed to
doing everything alone.
Yeah.
So you would have maybe someone do the digital stuff, someone does the model, and can bring back that the model culture.
I mean, you have that in Method 3A, right? Working together as a team.
Yeah.
I just can't see it coming into design because people complain too much about group work. Like every single time we try group work, even Methods 3A, which is a relatively innocuous, fun unit, we still have people complain about having to do group work.
Right.
So yeah, I just don't see getting past it. If we had maybe, I don't know, see the problem is like if you put all the HD students together so they're happy in the Ds, so they're happy in the Cs, so they're happy, like the ethics of that, not very good because you're basically setting up the F and P students to be F and P students. So there's no clean way around making sure group work is effective, and then for design studio I don't know how you would control that and make sure everyone has the same learning experience, whereas if everybody's individual, it's up to the one student. Whereas if they're in a pair, you could say, well, I didn't get to learn because X student had to go away to their own country, or they had a family member die and therefore they didn't do anything for a while, and so I missed out because I was in a pair. And then what do? Do you get them to do the unit again, or do you just pass them?
That's
it's tricky. Whereas other units, I feel like you can get around it. But
Definitely.
It has to be a fun question to finish now.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
so I've heard this story and a couple other people. Would you like to tell our listeners about your like punk / goth / emo phase?
Oh man, punk / goth / emo phase. Okay, so I'm a kid of the 90s in the noughties. What was very popular after the 90s, punk became post-punk became emo, and so very much when I was 14, 15, 16, I was in a band playing bass, and we would play that kind of music. I had the long fringe coming over the eye that I had to shake out of my face every 3 seconds. Every single day of the year I wore a band t-shirt, and because I went to a private school I had to hide my band t-shirt underneath my school uniform, but it was a point of pride to throughout the day lower a couple of buttons so that the logo of the band would start to sneak its way back through. Yeah, I love that shit. I don't know, my music taste is relatively broad, maybe not as much as yours. I know you listen to a lot of stuff, but
not as much as you might think.
Okay, most of my nostalgia comes back to that kind of post-punk because I was raised on Nirvana and those guys. That my sisters were older than me as well, which meant that my upbringing came through like late 80s, early 90s grunge, and then grunge very quickly turned into punk, and then by the time the emo came along, it was like, well, this is my shit. My hair's black now. Yeah. I never actually painted the fingernails or did anything like that, but very much we would stand in huddles and talk about how much we hated everything.
I feel like that's like the last echo of that era is the fingernails.
Yeah,
that's like still a thing that kind of calls back to
to
that period. Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, well, when the 4 of us eventually go out for karaoke, you'll hear me sing along to some emo stuff, and then we'll cut it old school.
Yeah,
we were thinking.
I'm so keen for that.
Yeah, we were thinking of doing karaoke. The end of this semester.
Well, once you finish this semester, you're not my students anymore because you move on to the masters. So we do whatever you want. We can hang out.
CASA funded.
Yeah. Thanks to our treasurer. Yeah. Sponsored by Shawn and CASA.
Right. We were talking about getting a CASA PlayStation and trying to write it off.
Yeah.
Not
do it.
Possible.
Why not?
Don't have an income.
Oh yeah, well, you can't write it off.
Exactly.
You got to get some money coming in. But you're an incorporated organization, so you don't pay tax anyway.
That's right. So you have to, start. You got to give some to get some,
Yeah. But as soon as you get some money coming through, you can buy stuff. Obviously within reason. So you get yourself a motorbike or something like that.
The car.
But yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
For sure.
CASA PS5.
CASA PS5.
Well, I don't think you guys will do work after that.
Not much. Yeah, just sit here all day, just play.
Yeah.
Well, we have class in like 15, so
we do.
It's fine.
We do. Yes.
We would like to thank you, Chris, for joining us.
Thanks for
having
having me.
Very, very, very insightful episode. Do you have any last quotes for people to live their lives by?
Oh, last quotes. I think probably the most important takeaway from any of this is to not take it as gospel or anything that I say or anything that anyone else says as to be the most important thing. The bigger picture, rather than saying you should live by these words, is to go and find your own words, is to go and research other people, is to go and get inspired by as many people as possible so that we all don't end up regurgitating the same shit. What scares me most about the world right now, and particularly social media, TikTok, is that people have stopped caring about facts and stopped caring about where information comes from, and all they really care about is that it's someone that they like, which is incredibly dangerous because it can lead to too many paths. So my final word for advice for everybody, first year, second year, anyone listening to this really, is that you go out there, you read widely, you expose yourself to as many perspectives as possible, you talk to people who you think you might not like, because you might find a new friend, talk to people who you think maybe you've got something in common with, because you might have lots in common with them, and just get as many different sources of information as possible as you can. That is really the goal of university, is to expose you to new, different and interesting people out there. After all of our agency problems are going to be solved by humans, creative humans who can come up with creative solutions. So just go out there, meet some people, gain some perspective, and figure out who you are.
And that is the end of the episode. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us on the CASAcast. Thank you to my co-hosts, Shawn and Jenny, for joining me. Thank you for watching to the end. We were kind of planning that one for a long time. So again, thank you to Chris for coming on and just spewing gems the entire time. We will be taking a bit of a hiatus now that it is, summer break on the Bentley campus, but we assure you that the CASAcast will come back even stronger next year, and we hope you're looking forward to it. Thank you. Please like and subscribe.